Come on, Mary. Yeah!
Oh,
What?
Yeah.
You don't have to kill
yeah.
her? What?
5%.
Oh yeah.
She leaves at 5%.
Well, that would have
Oh
been
my
really
God.
good to know
That
earlier.
is
You know, I totally forgot about it too. I was like, come on,
I think I just threw up.
Hey, you all, it is Soul. It is the first of the month, February 1st, 2019. This is Warcraft Weekly, brought to you by these awesome people. We have a show today. Let's get right to it. First, I'm going to recap some of the small things that deserve at least a little bit of our attention. I'm going to share my thoughts on this week's store shop mount and provide some suggestions, give my concerns. There's a PTR build this week, and I'm going to focus on some notable changes to your favorite cooldowns. And then we're going to talk about all the awesome things that the Alliance has been up to. Spoiler alert, it's not much. And let me squeeze this one in there really quick. My Discord channel is finally up. I'm going to have a permanent link below to which you can, well, hang out, spam stuff. Okay, don't just follow the rules and all that, but yeah, come in and hang out. I'd love to have you. Bob is over at the capital of the Zendalari Empire, living the dream. How you doing, Bob?
Best ever. I'm the king of Indiana.
Okay, all right. Well, he's clearly having a good time. Maybe we can get to all this new stuff without him noticing. Come on, let's get started. Hogrus the pig was introduced to the World of Warcraft shop this week, premiered in a single video by Blizzard Entertainment. In efforts to discourage fellow players from purchasing it, critics bashed it while inadvertently spreading tons of awareness of said mount at near viral levels. Yes, I obviously bought one, and the downvote button it's somewhere over there. Have at it. This week, the world first race has begun, with at least as of this recording, 4 guilds that are now 8 of 9 bosses defeated. Meanwhile, I'm salivating over the possible awkwardness of seeing Method continue to advertise themselves so hard as the premier not world first guild, but I'm also mentally prepared to eat the words I'm reading off of my screen, Chunky Monkey. What? As the top mythic guilds began their race this week, cross-realm mythic raiding was accidentally and temporarily activated as well. Thousands of players took advantage of the exploit, marching to an extremely easy clear of nope, just kidding. So it's 2019, another year, another Lunar Festival, and in this case, another Lunar Festival mount. And of course, the thing that you've been waiting for, a ton of drama. Now, this is nothing new. At this point, we have 3 store mounts that have been introduced since the start of the Battle for Azeroth, which is approximately 3% of the total mounts after you consider among them the season PvP mounts, faction specific mounts, and recolors. The fact of the matter is that store mount representation is really small in the grand scheme of things. So to me, it doesn't matter if Blizzard is putting a little bit more time into making the effects of the Vulpine Familiar mounts if I don't care about fox looking mounts at all. But on the other hand, maybe a frog-shaped horse is my boyhood dream. Many critics are trying to hammer home the point that we, the fans, should not be spending more money on a game that we're already paying a monthly subscription for. I'm speaking for myself here. I'm not telling you, hey, buy the mount because it's awesome or because Blizzard is telling you to, but this is my response to that sort of criticism. I'm already playing a video game. Don't tell me how to spend my money. I mean, okay, I bought it with gold, so it's someone else's money, whatever. That aside, though, what I want to explore more is the suggestion that has been posed recently with regards to this year's holiday mount, that it should be made available with coins of ancestry, which is the currency of the Lunar Festival. I find this suggestion to be very fair and very reasonable and very dangerous. I'm going to go down a slippery slope with this one, so strap in. Using this year's pig as an example, if it was introduced as something that you could get with coins of ancestry, there would be some instant friction between players who have to go around farming coins. And in case, I don't even recall this off the top of my head, if you're able to amass tons of these coins just for no reason and just hold on to them for many, many years, then you can just buy it instantly. Whether that's possible or not, though, that's small stuff. It's not a big deal after like the first year. However, there's more than just a puppy or a pig-shaped puppy to celebrate the Lunar New Year. There's 12. If Blizzard were to be pressured to make 12 mounts over like 12 years, let's just go with that, that's going to make for 12 unique, high-res, dope-ass looking mounts for a single holiday. And given the way that the holidays work and it won't be in the shop, then that means those mounts can only be earned during said holiday. it sounds pretty safe to assume that you'd only really be able to earn enough coins to purchase one of these mounts during each holiday, unless, you want to no-life it and for the next couple weeks and switch to a bunch of alts and get more coins and, go that route. In general, though, having so many mounts on lumped onto one holiday, it just seems really, really lopsided. By contrast, the Dark Moon Fair, with all of its mounts and cosmetics and all that stuff, that at least comes by every month. So I think that is in a good place. And I wouldn't want to see the Lunar Festival be artificially, hey, let's just do it every month now. Yay. So I'm just going to leave my concerns at that, because overall my feelings are pretty mixed. I think that now that we've seen 2 of these mounts over 2 years, now it's almost like there is an expectation to release more each year, and I'm not entirely comfortable with that. Next year, for example, is the rats. I mean, what kind of complaints are we going to hear then? Moving right along to this week's PTR, there was a lot of lore and story stuff to reveal, and I talked about those in separate videos, so take a look at that somewhere, link, whatever. So instead, I'm going to focus on what Ian had talked about just the other week with regards to major cooldown abilities that happen to be on the global cooldown. He had said the other week that spells like Ascendance, that they want to add an active component to it. That's not only are you buffing your character, but you're doing something instant so that you get a little bit of cool gratification. Then you can start firing off abilities with whatever buff. So sure enough, in this build, we're starting to see that Ascendance does in fact fire off an immediate heal when you cast your Ascendance buff. Another buff that wasn't mentioned until this build was Avenging Wrath. Thank goodness I can talk about this at length. So Avenging Wrath has changed. For all specs, not only is it going to increase your damage and healing by 20%, but it's also going to raise your crit strike rating by 20% for the duration of the buff. On top of that, depending on your spec, certain abilities are going to be slightly enhanced. After popping Avenging Wrath, for Holy Paladins, their next Holy Shock is going to be a guaranteed crit strike. For Protection, Judgment is going to be a guaranteed crit strike, and for Retribution, either Templar's Verdict or Divine Storm will be a guaranteed crit. At least as a first impression, this sort of design speaks to me in a number of ways. For one, it tells me that, well, I guess so far it seems kind of limp. It's not all that cool. I was hoping for something a little bit more immediate. Instead, this is pretty much the same thing. It's just going to make your next thing cool, but it doesn't make casting Avenging Wrath cool onto itself. You know what I mean? As for what actually is going on, okay, cool. For Holy, that is nice for getting like a really strong instant heal out there. For Retribution, it's kind of a no-brainer. It'll definitely empower you to line up as many things, knowing that your next Templar's Verdict or Divine Storm is going to crit. For Protection, though, which is what I can speak to most, that's it, dude. For real, just a critical judgment. Because as a Protection Paladin, that don't do much. Pretty much all that this buff is going to do is make it so that my judgment lowers my active mitigation abilities cooldown by 4 seconds.
Oh my god. 4 seconds.
Nah. So as a first pass, nah, not very good, at least not for Protection. For Holy and Rets, it's kind of okay, but it's still a little bit weak. I'm hoping to get like something like instant happening, like for Protection, like just give me like a little bubble. Protect me from like a little bit of damage or something like that. Or make it so that my Avenger Shield, which is a more iconic Protection Paladin thing, does something cool, like give me the old school bubble that we used to have in Legion. That'd be cool. My hopes are that Avenging Wrath is done a little bit better over the course of the next couple or so builds as they take an input from us in the forums, maybe. But I'm also very curious to see what else in store. There are tons of throughput cooldowns out there, and I'd love to see what like a battle shout would do or something like that. What other cool things can be done? Yeah, I'd love to hear like your folks' ideas, because me, I have no imagination. But hey, what do you think is possible? The last thing I want to bring up, in what I hope to be is a somewhat shorter weekly this week, is me kind of whining over the Alliance. I'm going to try to speak for the Alliance in this case and talk about Man, they ain't doing much in this expansion, are they? As a Horde player, I'm playing through and I'm doing coverage over a lot of things, a lot of controversial things, a lot of debatable things. It's generating a lot of buzz, but it's all about the Horde. It's all about Sylvanas. It's all about Saurfang and Vol'jin and how all this stuff ties together. This is the culmination of many events that are leading up to everything that Horde players are experiencing now, with trying to rediscover its identity in the middle of a war, which is kind of cool. As for the Alliance, though, while we're getting a lot of cool little story bits, there's just a lot of stuff that Blizzard is sitting on, and we're not able to experience these things yet, maybe because it's not their time, or maybe because they're pushing things back because there's so much more stuff going on with the Horde at the moment. But I sympathize with Alliance players when they say that they don't feel like they have a very interesting story going on, because it's not. They may get some more side things to do, although one of them is more or less a reaction to what's going on with Sylvanas in patch 8.15. And again, there's a video linked below where I go over some of that stuff, but beware of the spoilers. But there are more threads that I am definitely interested in, such as Kalia Menethil, who, as of now at least, is probably still hanging out over at the Netherlight Temple. There's a small mention of her in a conversation between Anduin and Jaina at the end of this raid that hopefully will be where Alliance players start pulling on that thread and discovering more cool things to do. There's the power couple with Turalyon and Ilaria, and the explosive non-sexual confrontation that they may have given their affiliations with the Light and the Void. Yrel over in AU Draenor still has her side of the story to tell if Blizzard wants to tell that side of the story. Lady Ashvane was broken out of jail, and I'm not quite sure if anyone on the Alliance side happens to be aware of that yet. Maybe this will play out more as a reaction to what the Horde was doing, or maybe in the future build we'll see something on the war campaign that addresses this. And then there's Megatork, the king of the gnomes, who isn't doing so great right now. I can't say for sure if he's going to go on a hiatus, kind of similar to Magni Bronzebeard did, or if he's going to return in this expansion. I don't know. And I must admit, as someone who is not very on top of the Alliance story, that's all I've got. So I'd love to hear more from you folks at home and elsewhere about what other crazy events do you think might or should be explored. As I said earlier, there are very clear indications that with the Horde, in this expansion they're trying to find their identity as a faction in wartime. This leads to many very unique choices that players on the Horde side are going to make. They're going to question their decisions and actions that will lead to its leaders and champions to make hard choices. At this point, though, I don't think that there necessarily needs to be an equivalent kind of story for the Alliance with all this different kind of conflict, but there ought to be, something. So I think that about wraps things up for the week. The guild and I were able to finally get down Jaina just last night. The last pull of the night, it's classic POW. It's the thing that we usually do. Like, it felt good. Really good. Bragging about completing the raid in normal mode, maybe it's not something to write home about, but the impressions of the raid that I have so far, based on just the normal experience, so far they're very, very good. It remains to be seen how well this is going to keep up over the next couple of months as we're doing this over and over and over again. Although fortunately in the 8.15 patch, the Crucible of Storms raid is going to at least kind of mess with the routine a little bit, or otherwise add a couple of more bosses to this tier, season, whatever. But now I have 12 or so hours of footage to go through, so I can provide some highlights and do my usual thing where you guys get to meet the guild and you get to listen and watch some of our antics. So stay tuned for that. I plan on doing possibly another audio confrontation, this one involving maybe Saurfang and the Thanos. It might be cool. It might bomb like the previous one did. But I guess we'll see. So I want to thank all you wonderful, beautiful digital people for joining me today and making it to the very end. Once again, feel free to join me over on the Discord channel for more discussion, or if you want to provide suggestions, ideas, ask questions, any of that stuff, go right ahead. Another big thanks to all the subscribers, the new patrons. Thank you so much for helping support the channel. It helps me give you more of this and all things Warcraft because I love doing what I do.
And I don't want to stop.
I look forward to seeing all of you next week. So y'all have a good one. Stay safe, stay happy, and stay breezy.